that is, after Catherine Torrance of Great Britain, who has got 2.25 spare over Velihurskaya of Belarus. Still plenty of opportunities, though. It's a great watch of divers just under that 12-13th with less than 10 points covering from cut-off down to 23rd. Hannah Rott is just below that group, so she has more than a bit to make up. That was her 2.1.
You really see from the angle we have on the camera, she twisted off away from the board. Judges only have the advantage of looking from the side. There's a distinctive go, Catherine, in the background.
Catherine Torrance, 12th, means she can't afford to get too much wrong. 2.1s to go in her opening 5. Just a bit untidy rotating on there.
Not her best dive, but it's a hard tariff. 6.5, but she still gets 40.
Good out Skaiti from Lithuania. Didn't hang about.
Looking disappointed with that. That's her lowest marks from the judges so far.
Caroline Lecoeur, also a bit out of the reckoning at the moment. You've seen these leaderboards change so dramatically, though. Might improve her position a little bit. It's a 2.1 degree of difficulty on the inward 1.5 somersault. Not really. Logantine of Italy in that group, chasing the cut-off position. .705. Lydia Rosenthal in her only event, going along steadily. It's a 1.9 reverse dive. Very steady. Diana Shelestiuk is second. Looking for her third medal. .5 creeping onto her card. Natasha Mcmanus from France, down 25th.
That's the first time we've seen Nagy enter a level of difficulty of 2. The rest of them are 1.6, 1.8, 1.9. So she's gradually ranking up the difficulties. That's not the scores at the moment.
Natasha Mcmanus, 19th. 2.1s to go in the opening 5. Inward 1.5. Chance to move up the leaderboard. Needs to complete the dive a little bit more tidy than that. See her not really stopping into a good entry position.
She had very little time in the tight, compact pike position as well.
Bit of a snatched dive, really. Malia Polikova again has a 2-1 here to increase her options. Got to the final in the World Juniors, the synchro. Not sure if the synchro is a softer option in the sense of it brings its own traumas. We saw yesterday when one diver gets it terribly wrong and feels they've let the other one down. Not that Stravinsky did anything like that when she was in the synchro event. Nowhere to hide when you're up there on your own. At least you have your own destiny in your own hands. In with 1.5 somersault, 2.1 for the gold medalist. Not afraid to take her time.
That composure on the board really showing that competition experience. She's not pressured by anything, not worrying about having to rush it. She goes when she's ready.
Sometimes you worry that when they spend so long on the board, the clock is running on them, of course, that just having a bit of the yips almost and can't quite get the trigger and the release right, but Solchinsky is pretty calm. Malia Polikova going decently. This is a 1.8. Snappy dive.
But very precise with her movements.
The feeling of conviction about it, that she knew exactly what she was doing. 38.70. Vivian Bart also having a decent day to date. 9th. She finished at 1 metre, 7th in the synchro. Again, not letting her standards drop significantly.
Her last dive that comes under 2 for difficulty.
Good stuff. Daphne Vils, 16. That's her ranking, her age is 17. Within reach, certainly, of qualification. Needs to make the most of this 2.1. 0.8 even. Still needs to make the most of it. Dive list in front of you with all the dive descriptions and numbers. Looks like your shopping list, really, a till receipt. Tama Sitchinava of Georgia, a bit out of it at the moment. $7.80. Lily Hurskaya. Thirteenth at the moment. This is 2.1.
Well, she decided to put her easier dives first as well, and then she gradually ranks up the difficulty. She goes through the 9 performances.
Probably going to regret saying this, but in general, the standard pretty decent this morning. Not dazzling, but so far we've avoided any real disasters. Wouldn't have expected Polikova to be one of the perpetrators. 5th at the moment. Certainly not. Had a few tears yesterday when things went wrong. Could do without that again. I wonder just how young some of these competitors are. Laura Granelli. .0 this one's worth. 3 sevens. Frida Calgren.
She was ranked 3rd before this, but she has saved her easiest dive to this 4th round. Not going to help at the moment. That's why we really can't tell until we start moving into round 6 and 7 as to who is looking like being at the top and qualifying.
Saskia Oettinghaus is looking pretty solid. She's got 2.1 here. She has still saved her 1.6. great problems there. You want to lift those marks up into the 7s at least. Marina Tomiek in the chasing pack just behind the leading bunch. That's a fair way of summing it up. 1.9 here, this reverse dive. Nice upright entry.
The judges are up on the stools so they can get a really good view. But from our bird's eye view there, you can see rotation as she entered the water.
It's having a different dive from the change of angle there. Ellen Ek of Sweden.
Well, that was well recovered. She did not have a great position on the board. If you get that replay, you'll be able to see. Get close, her feet are right over the edge. Just holding on with her toes.
Dominika back. 14th, just on the edge. .9 reverse dive. Again, not managing to get out of that 6.5 range. Cue the applause. Pikovskaya of Azerbaijan, 23rd. Not looking like she'll be back for the big one tonight. Competed regularly in the Russian championships, came 3rd. Same in the Russian youth games. Slipping down to the 5.5s. Skurshek of Poland, 10th, looking for a second final.
Very precise on her positioning on the board for takeoff.
.37.05. Nekrasova setting the standards at the moment.
By the looks of that, continuing to do so.
It's a really big stretch, reaching up there. Again, stretching out and really getting her body taut for the entry. Very pleased with it. 44.65. Emma Tuksen of Norway. 2.1, this inward 1.5. Sixes. Last to go, Alita Chusova of Ukraine. Just inside the qualification positions. 1.9 that dive. Just making life a little bit uncomfortable for herself at the moment. Not quite halfway, 4 out of 9, here we go. Nekrasova, 2 Russians leading, Ukraine, Germany, Britain. Kalgren of Sweden, top 8. Keep an eye on that gap, that points total around 12. Molic, Torrance, Velihurskaya, Kokus, that's the cut, 150.85, 1 point, Skirshek behind. So for 150.85, we're down to 145, 5.5 points. Testing my maths this, down to 140, so 10 points covering 12 to 19. Hour and a half we've been going here in this women's 3-metre springboard. A long test of endurance and concentration. Keep emphasising that. Hannah Roth. $7.80 for Roth. This is Catherine Torrance. She's inside the cut at the moment. Forward 1.5 somersault, 1 twist, 2.1. Great Britain, one of the teams having a strong games here in the diving pool. Different traditions. They were nowhere near the synchronised swimming, but the diving going well in Great Britain at the moment. Gerdevskaite. Forward 1.5 somersault, 1 twist, a 2.1. So a few extra points here. $25.70. Caroline Lecoeur. .1, forward 1.5 with a twist. 27.80. Rogantin, 17th, was inside the chasing group. .0 here. Lydia Rosenthal, 16 years of age, 6th. Takeoff position, 2.1 with this forward 1.5 somersault 1 twist. We're in the last of the limited dive round, the ones that carry through. 40.95. Okay. Diana Shelestiuk racking up some good points to carry forward. Again, clean, capable feeling, which those Ukrainian coaches approve of. Really solid. There's Sam Nagy. .1 dive for her here. Looking a bit out of things at the moment. Slight delay on her scores. There they are, 42. Natasha Mcmanus shouldn't give up the ghost yet. 19th from Ireland. A 2.1 dive here. Down in the 6.5s, just needs to lift it up just a level or so. Madeline Kokus in that vulnerable 12th position here, the Swiss girl, 16 years of age, didn't make the final at 1 meters. Like to keep her games going just a little bit longer. Louisa Stauczynski pulling herself up with her bigger dives. The last one was a 2.1. It's more of the same now. Forward 1.5 somersault 1 twist. calmly done again. She's had an unflustered bearing about her. Same again, 44.10 for her last two dives with the 2.1. Malia Polikova, another potential finalist here. To 0 for this rating. .34 for Polikova. Vivienne Bart. Nice progress into 7th place. Has a 2.1 here. She can just keep things going. Given the importance of accumulating points to carry forward. Keep those marks in the 7.5 range.
Well, this is the last round that's going to count. Later on in the final.
Daphne Vils, 18th though, still can keep progressing, but she'll have to tidy up her diving if she wants to. The applause was there, but might have been more instinct than any. Just dropping down into the 6s there for 38.85. Tamasa Chinava from Georgia.
A lot of work to do as we approach halfway through these 9 dives. And those at the top end are likely to start to open their lead as they can crank up the level of difficulty.
9 rounds, they're probably halfway through, just at the top of their pike position. About 4.5 dives to go. Doesn't quite work like that. Let's make this evening, the final, pretty short and sharp. Polikova here from Belarus. Just keeping going the 40.95. Just needs to lift it again, another one. Very composed Malia Polikova. Second, looking classy. Forward 1.5 somersault, 1 twist. Continuing to look classy.
She won't be wanting to make the mistake that her male teammate Molchanov did. He had gold and a silver in the bag already and dropped down to bronze. She'll be looking for another gold to add to her collection later on in the final.
Good 8s. Ominous. Laura Granelli has her 2.1 limited DD dive here. 15th. Anything possible? sevens. Better. Just seem to see in these preliminaries that they're sort of 6 divers, 5.5 divers, 7.5 divers. They sort of almost stick to their ranking level rather than having great fluctuations here. Frida Kalgren in 8th place is scoring decently. She's got a 2.0 back, 1.5, half a twist.
Judge sports, especially synchronized swimming, used to have a few question marks over some of the judging. It is difficult in a subjective sport, but this is why in diving you can see the mix of scores. Only the middle 3 are taken.
Synchronized swimming, the marks don't go up in jumps of 0.5. They're all for every decimal place, so it really is more complex. Oettinghaus from Germany, up 4th position, completing her limited program.
A long way off the end of the board. Didn't manage to completely compose herself before the entry. Still in some form of rotation as she started to break the water.
A bit of a plop when she hit the water there. That wasn't quite the sound you really want. 58.80. Marina Tomiak just a bit off the pace. That's a 2.1 here. Coach is wondering. Just in that lower middle range, 29.90. Ellen Eck with her 2.1. She opened with that tariff.
Well, that might well move her back up again. Due to her opening, she put herself in 2nd after just 1 round. But left herself with some amount of work to do now.
Seem to be reaching a little bit.
Doing the 6s, it's not enough, even when multiplied by 2.1.
Dominika back, 16th, that's in contention. A hesitation there.
That's her most difficult dive yet, 2.1 forward, 1.5 somersault, 1 twist.
Sixes from Azerbaijan, the hosts, Olga Bikovskaya.
Well, the hosts have had 2 athletes making it into finals. Bikovskaya competed in the final in the platform. She's left herself lots to do to make it there again.
Skrzek of Poland. Breathing down the neck of the qualifiers, 13th place. 2.1 for this forward, 1.5 somersault, one twist. Sevens, 44.10. Ekaterina Nekrasova out the front at the moment, 2.1. Forward 1.5, one twist.
Her second 2.1 of her 5 opening dives. She has put herself in a good position. The next 4 dives after this will only count towards her getting into the final. They won't be carried over, but this one will be. She'll be happy to take that score with her.
Quite as good as her previous 2.1, but pretty solid. Anna Tuxen, Norway.
Not got anything higher than 6s as the scores used in the last 2 rounds. And it seems like she has the curse of the 6 at the moment, giving her 36-0.
Melita Jusova, 14th. Again, little ground to make up here. 2.1 could do a nice, tasty score here to contribute to the marks carried forward with her ambitions. I don't think so, though. Now those 6.5s dragging her down. Bit of a double bogey, the old 6.5, and keep those off your card if you can, if you've got ambitions. Five rounds gone. Cut-off is behind Granelli at the moment, 191.50, but it's, again, 10 points covering 5. 217.80 is the top score. $50 points covering top to bottom. Rot. And the pecking order 25th.
$28.80, not a good score for the Austrian.
Catherine Torrance now upping her game to her biggest dive, 3.0, forward 2.5 somersault, one twist, in 7th place. Now the show starts with our first big dive. A lot more going on there.
Well, she's got the automatic advantage, timesing any scores she gets from those judges by 3.0. See the result Only 6.5, but it gives her 58.5.
Go to Skyty. Quite so ambitious in her program, understandably. 2.7.
Well, she struggled to fit that whole motion in. She was targeting an inward 2.5 somersaults. She gets full somersaults, but doesn't quite manage to extend her legs for hitting the entry.
43.20. Caroline Lecoeur, right down in 28th. She was only just out the frame for the final of the 1 metre, so she might be disappointed with how today has gone.
Many of these divers, the 3-metre board will be the one that they're working towards, purely because it's got that attraction of being an Olympic event. 1 metre, it's a great starting point, but any competitor wants the opportunity to compete at the Olympics.
Has to be the bonus event. Look at the World Championships, which are next month. Brogantin from Italy, not out of reach in 18th. Still down in the 2.4s at the moment. Pleased if she's enjoying herself. Supposed to be the idea in there somewhere. Lydia Rosenthal steps forward, looking quite earnest.
Well, she's painted her nails a nice colour for the occasion.
Sixth.
And the difference there to one of the earlier 2.5 somersaults and tuck was that exit
Very
from that
tight
tuck position. And then she really extends into the water. 7s across the board.
Diana Shelestiuk, third. Poker face. 2.7 for this inward 2.5. Again, a good tight position for the rotations in the tuck.
Shelestiuk started as though she meant to go on with a difficulty of 2.1 and then dropped them down, but now she is climbing back up with those difficulties, and it looks like with the scores to go with it.
Massam Naji, 23rd. Was one of the first times we've seen something go particularly wrong. I mean, she never really got themselves in the position there. Naji.
Struggling to tuck up tight enough. Ran out of time. Couldn't get her legs up in the air. Disappointing, 32.4.
We might see a few more falls now that the difficulty has increased significantly. Natasha Mcmanus, though, is still down in the 2.4s. Looking for first final. Quite a lot of displacement. 3.20. Maxine Focus. 11th place. So on course for a place in the final if she can negotiate her free program solidly. 2.7, the rest are all 2.8s. No massive dives.
Her knees still bent on entry. Judges will spot that and take it into account. It isn't purely the entry, it's the position during the air, it is the takeoff. There's so much to consider. There's a few things sometimes when you make a mistake that can be quite obvious.
Louisa Stauczynski progressively climbing up the order to 4th, being very businesslike. Gives the air of being in complete control. 2.7 for this inward 2.5. She will not be rushed.
I expect some of the spectators and judges are maybe pleased that not all of the divers need quite that length of time to compose themselves.
She worries you a little bit, doesn't she? She's there, you think, is there something wrong? But there certainly isn't.
It's very consistent, the time she takes, and I think she has a mental pattern. She's not just there bouncing around waiting, she'll be going through a routine in her head.
The visualization.
Exactly.
Malia Polikova. Here, reverse 2.5.
Oh, I don't think we really need to explain that one. The sound of the water says enough. And there you get it in slow motion. You see she's almost horizontal position before she's finished entering the water.
Well, as soon as we've lifted the challenge of the dives, then we've started to see the 3s and 2.5s come out, sadly for them. Vivian Bart, how's she going to react to the increased challenge on a 2.7 inward 2.5?
Well, an improvement on the previous diver we saw, but she was consistent with 7.5s and 7s, and I think she might have just slipped out of that consistency with this. And she has 5.5s, considerably slipped out of it.
Daphne Vils from the Netherlands. A little bit of ground to make up. Still a 2.4 forward 2.5 somersault. High dives to come in terms of difficulty.
Very firm landing on the board before exploding into the dive.
Sichinava of Georgia there. Their way down the order. Belihurskaya, Belarus. 2.5 somersaults in there for 2.4.
She's one who's chosen to gradually increase the difficulty of her dives. They can choose the order in which they enter them. She'll be up to 2.8. Next performance.
In second place after the 5 limited dives, the manicured Malia Polikova. Her diving's pretty manicured as well. Just everything, she just gives that impression, just sashaying around the pool side, not swaggering, but just, I know what I'm doing.
There's an air of confidence, not arrogance. That is so important for an athlete, not to get ahead of themselves.
Laura Granelli. She is in the cut-off position. .7 for that inward 2.5. 15 years of age. Quite an older, by and large, entry here. 6.5s there. Probably because it's such a core event. Frida Kallgren. 16. 8th. Doesn't want to spoil anything here. 2.7 inward 2.5.
Well, it sounds like the Swedes are out in force. It's a long day for the athletes. Often feels just as long for the spectators.
They're probably more nervous if they've got family and friends involved. At least the competitors can get into their routine and do what they have to do. Saskia Ertinghaus has to just lift her performance level. The last dive was low in tariff but wasn't over dazzling. This is a 2.7 inward 2.5 somersault. Gold medalist synchro expect to at least get into the final. Wouldn't start panicking yet, but well, maybe she might start panicking just a little bit more because she's not really showing the form that we might have expected.
Well, she will undoubtedly have taken confidence from that gold just one day ago, but the level of performance that she showed in that synchro isn't quite coming through so far in this individual event.
I've not had time to sort of come down off the high, really. If the competition was spread over more days, it would be a bit more stretched out and they'd have the time to mentally get themselves together as well. Marina Tomiak here would like the problems, I'm sure, of having to deal with success.
She just looked a little bit rushed there. Not finding the perfect position on the end of the board.
5.5s. Helen Eck.
Well, that's the first time we've seen Ellen Eck move up to a difficulty of 2.4 in this preliminary round. She'll be making her chances of a higher score that bit easier, and she has. She's got into the 40s.
Some of these divers will come away with a better perspective on the standards required towards the top. Dominika Bach, 16th, 2.4. She's not got the biggest program. Cleanly done though. Certainly the entry was nice sounding. Reaching for the water. Competent.
50.47s. So even without the really high multiplier, she's still getting up into the 50s.
Olga Bikovskaya, representing the host country. Very good, friendly hosts they've been as well. For the degree of difficulty for Olga. Certainly thrown people at making this whole event a big success. Let's go check here. So many volunteers, and put anything down, somebody's cleaning around you and making sure everything looks absolutely spotless. Loads of volunteers, all in distinctive t-shirts, you know the feel of the big games. Skirshek wants to keep involved in them too. She's ranked 9th.
She's one of those divers we have become to expect to see making the final. She's got a bit of work to do still.
Just a little bit of a dip there for her. Dip in the mark sense rather than the obvious water context. Wouldn't waste a pun like that. Ekaterina Neklasova. Again, steady, strong at the top of the leaderboard. 2.7, inward 2.5. Well, first sign of a significant flaw in that dive, just getting untidy. Maybe she too is just feeling the length of the competition.
Well, she hasn't scored outside of 7.5, and now she's dropped right down to the 6s. Still getting 48.6, but that is purely because of the level of difficulty of that dive.
Anna Tuxen, 22nd.
Struggling to squeeze that in. It's one of her most difficult dives, back 2.5 somersault, rating of 2.8. And there's a lot of movement to finish, and she just didn't quite manage to finish it.
Some 4.5s there. You want to see those out. Margarita Chusova of Ukraine, again reaching for a qualifying place. She's 14th. This is a 3.0 dive. She's not going to get much of a bonus from that. It was about an angle of 45 degrees, not 90 going into the water.
We really are suddenly seeing the competition open up, and this is purely because we've left those compulsory first 5 dives when the scores were limited, and now the divers really pushing themselves, some of them being a little bit too ambitious at this stage with their choice of dives, it seems.
So let's see where we are, 2/3 of the way through. Polikova pretty immaculate at the top there, Shalustyuk as well, pedigree, Neklasova still in 3rd, and the familiar faces of Stauczynski, and the experienced divers are making it count. Dusova, Koku's just making it, but look, 0.3, Skarshik behind, so I would say 11 points down to Bill, so that's 9 points rather, that's manageable. Ertinghaus as well with a bit of work to do, but they're very tight all the way through. So 2:35.05 is the cutoff, so 10 points back to Ertinghaus.